Okay, you get me on a scuzzy Sunday afternoon. Credit card pop quiz number 2. And apparently I didn't have a review video on this. So here we go. And a lot of this is from the Secret History of the Credit Card movie. So I'm just going to kind of go through this fairly quickly. Actor Ben Stein pays off his 8 credit cards every month. In the eyes of the credit card industry, he is known as a deadbeat. He is known as a deadbeat because his friend in the credit card industry found out that he pays his cards off every month. They don't make any money off of him, and so as the movie said, in the upside down world of the credit card industry, you have the deadbeats, the ones that pay their cards off every month. Then you have the revolvers, the ones that are constantly carrying a balance over. So one thing for this class, yeah, you're trying to pass. Yeah, you're trying to get a good grade. I want you all to come away with this class knowing that being a deadbeat in the financial world is a wonderful thing. And I've had former students come up to me and say, hey, Mr. Rudin, I just want you to know I'm still a deadbeat. I'm like, yeah, right on. Okay. If you are late, number 2, if you're late on your car payment, the credit card company can raise your interest rate even if you've been making credit card payments on time. This is known as universal default. So you might be making your credit card payment every day, every month, I should say, on time, but you're late on one car payment, totally unrelated debt. The credit card company finds out they can raise your rate universally, like all of your debt. Credit card industry consultant Andrew Carr encouraged credit card companies to introduce a new credit card with I think this was in about 99, 2000. He said, go right to 0%. Get people into the game, get them used to using their credit cards, and then slowly get that thing to creep up on you, on them, to get that interest up so you can make money off of them. So 0% is an introductory rate. It probably won't last very long. A cap on maximum interest rates. This was mentioned at the beginning of the movie when they were walking around with the former governor of South Dakota and how South Dakota had relaxed their usury laws. And again, usury is kind of an old fashioned term. Usury is interest, really another word for interest, charging people interest. So basically, it removes that lid or makes those rates very high to where you can charge pretty high interest rates on unsecured loans like credit cards. A good, bad FICO. Again, when we say FICO, we're referring to Fair Isaac Company, the company that cranks out all of this data and assigns a FICO score between 350 bad, 850 perfect to individuals, millions of individuals in the country. And your FICO score can affect all of those items there, believe it or not. The 3 C's of credit, one more time, are capacity. Do you have the ability to pay the debt back? What is your current income? What is your current debt responsibilities? Because if you're taking out a loan from me, I want to know you have the capacity or the room to pay that debt back. Character. How have you paid debt back in the future? This would be most likely your FICO score and your credit report. Do you have a bad credit report? Or do you have like things in collections, things that are past due? That would be character. How have you paid back debt in the past? Third one's a little bit more remote. Again, that's capital, or we also use the term collateral, where a loan like a car loan or a home loan is secured by something of value like a title for a car or a deed for a home. And the bank or the loan company or whatever will hang on to that piece of paper until that debt is paid back. So you can't sell your home or your car until you pay that debt back. So we call that a secured loan. That is capital or collateral. Something of value, a piece of paper representing something of value is held. According to financial advisor Dave Ramsey, your first financial goal, this is like what they call his baby steps, which I appreciate. Baby step number 1 is establish an emergency fund of $1,000. COVID really exposed a lot of people to the fact they were living from hand to mouth. And once COVID hit and unemployment rose, a lot of people lost their jobs and they didn't have anything to fall back on. Even unemployment was kind of sketchy. So you need to start working. Not once you're as a young person, you get $1,000. Start going for maybe a couple months of income. So if you lose your job or something happens, it's not going to be a financial disaster. You can avoid penalties and interest on your credit card by paying your balance off every month. Because if you pay your balance off every month, it doesn't matter what your interest rate is, right? You won't get charged any interest if you don't have any balance to calculate interest on. So pay it off every month. Having many credit cards can have a negative effect on your credit score. This is true. The FICO people, the credit score people, will look at a lot of credit cards as an ability for you to go into debt. So if you have a lot of credit cards with a lot of high credit limits, that shows you've got an ability to maybe potentially go into debt. So having a lot of cards could actually negatively impact your credit score. Only keep the cards open that you actually use on a regular basis and cancel the rest. APR stands for annual percentage rate. This strips out the impact of like compounding. So you can look at interest rates on an apple to apple basis. All right, number 11. And if a typical balance on Kyle's credit card is $1,500 and the interest rate, APR, on his card is 16%, how much interest would you expect Kyle to be charged in a typical month? Okay. Now, here's where you have to ask yourself, how often do I make a payment on the credit card? And I hope your answer is monthly in a typical month. Well, what does APR stand for? Annual percentage rate. So if I'm converting an annual rate into a monthly rate, what do I do mathematically? I divide by 12. So if I take $1,500 times 16%, I'm going to come up with $240. And you should be able to see right away that if you came up with that for an answer, $240, you're probably going, well, that's a lot of interest for 1 month on a credit card. That shouldn't pass the smell test. But I have to convert that APR, that annual rate, into a monthly rate by dividing by 12. So if I take my 1,500 times 0.16 equals 240 and divide by 12, you can put those in whatever order you want to. Then I'm going to come up with $20 for interest on my $1,500 credit balance. That's B. Suppose you have two credit cards. First has a balance of 615 and a credit limit of 1,000. Second, you can read it right there, 515 and 2,000. What is your overall credit utilization? Remember, the credit utilization formula is credit card balance divided by credit card limit. Remember, with with budget challenge, our goal is to keep our credit utilization under 50%, or keep our balance under $500 because our limit in budget challenge was 1,000. So again, that credit utilization, 500 divided by 1,000. If you kept that under 50%, you got like 5 bonus points a day. Well, in this case, you've got two cards. So you have to add up the balances in the numerator and the credit limits in the denominator. So the numerator would be our balances of 615 plus 515 divided by our denominator of 1,000 plus 2,000. So you end up with a ratio of 1130, 615 plus 515, 1130 divided by 3,000 or 1,000 plus 2,000. And you should come up with 30.75 as a credit utilization rate. And if you have a credit card and you're trying to develop credit, 30% is kind of the sweet spot on how much credit you should put on that card on a regular basis to show responsibility, that character piece in the 3 C's, being able to pay back debt. But don't let it get yourself in trouble, and make sure you pay it off every month. Okay? And of course, roosters don't lay eggs. All right, so there you go. That's credit card pop quiz number 2. And I hope that you enjoyed that. And if you have any questions, please drop me a line. Let me know. Take care.